podcast for a John. What day is this? Is this Wednesday?
It is Hump Day, Bob.
Honest to God, in this environment, it is really difficult to figure out what day of the week it is. Even
Wednesday. It's Wednesday.
Freaking ridiculous. It's the podcast, and apparently for a Wednesday, and I'm Bob McCown, and that is wherever the hell he is over there, John.
Hey, you know what I really do know though?
What?
It's 2 days after Monday.
Oh boy, your math is great.
Yeah.
I'm glad you went back to school for that. Joining us, a face and a voice that will be familiar to, everybody in the U.S. and most people here in this country. Steve Levy of ESPN is with us. You look good. You look relaxed. You got your football season is underway. You got a new gig. How are you other than that?
Doing pretty good. Enjoying life as best we all can. Like you said, we're trying to figure out the days of the week, but I am able to figure out when it's Monday. Monday's the day, and it's so odd to be in a hotel someplace on Saturday and Sunday and watching all the sports, not being a part of it until Monday when we kind of have the night to ourselves. So, but yeah, making the best of it. I think like everybody out there trying to be smart, playing the percentages.
So when I think of Keith Jackson, who was the first guy, then there was Gifford, and then there was Michaels, and then there was a couple of other guys, and then there's you. I mean, that's pretty good company, man.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable really with being in that group, being at that table. I'm still wrapping my head around the title and all of those things. So, listen, I've been a huge football fan. Grew up, obviously with the NFL, much more so than college. I grew up in the New York metropolitan area, and hockey and football were really king, pro football. And so to be in that group, I understand the magnitude. It's the 50th anniversary season of Monday Night. They pulled out those canary yellow jackets for us, like the old guys used to wear. And so that was really cool for us. So I'm trying not to get swept up in the enormity of the whole thing and the magnitude that is Monday Night Football. And John, as you know me, I'm really just trying to get the score right and get the players right and go from there.
So just a minute. Jets or Giants?
Jets. Queens, Long Island is Jets country. Manhattan and Westchester and Rockland is Giants.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
So sorry.
It's been a rough go. Yeah.
Well, yes. It hasn't been exactly.
Well, you could be a Cleveland Browns
for the
fan.
Giants either.
Yeah, no. Look. There are a lot of other franchises I look at there, and I was thinking like the Lions, right? They're close to 500. They won 4 games, and the Buccaneers all of a sudden they were the laughing stock forever, and they're making a run. They got all these stars, and we'll see Tampa Bay this coming Monday night. So the Jets. Is that a Browns helmet? Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
You want to talk about pain and suffering?
Yeah.
Hey, listen, the Giants could win the division.
That says about the division, right? With 6 wins, maybe. Yeah, exactly. Why Browns, Bob, for you?
Well, I was born in Columbus, Ohio. I grew up as a Browns fan, and the first football that we got a chance to see were the back in the Jim Brown days, literally.
Yeah.
Were the Cleveland Browns, and it just seemed natural. And for a while, I was pretty young, but for a while it was fun.
Yeah,
it hasn't been so much fun the last.
But when you and Otto Graham go back a long way, Bob.
Oh, well, you and I, Otto and I were like that.
Yeah.
We're actually more like that. So, those of us that have been in broadcasting all our lives, it's easy to suggest that, you go from one chair to another chair, one job to another job, one station to another station, one role to another role. You still are who you are. You do what you do. But this is a big chair that you have. How intimidated is the wrong word. I don't know what the right word is, Steve, but how did you feel about it? How did you feel consciously you had to do anything differently?
Yes, there's no question about that. It is the scrutiny of the position. Look, I've always tried to be, as accurate as possible. But the mistakes I made on a Saturday afternoon doing a college game, which was still going to, 3 or 4 million people, but it can get lost, right? There's 15 other college football games going on at the same time. And so all eyes are on Monday Night Football. It's the transition is interesting because I remember it really was a case of, God, I hope I get this job. I really want this job. It's my dream job. To get the phone call, and I'm like, okay, wait a second. Now I've got the job, and now all those people are going to be watching me. And quite frankly, a good portion of them can't wait for me to slip up and mess something up, being the society we live in and the Twitterverse and all of that.
Sure.
So that was an interesting feeling. And, like people kept asking me early on the first month of the season, you having fun? I'm like, yeah, not really fun yet. Like, I'm enjoying the experience. I wouldn't call it fun. It was stressful. I'm trying to be perfect. I'm trying to get this right. I want to be in this chair for 20 years. And I want to do the job justice. I want to make everyone who put themselves in a position to back me or support me at ESPN. I want to let them know that they did the right thing and got this right by choosing me. I'm 28 years in at ESPN, so I am definitely a company guy. But only over the last couple of weeks would I say I'm having fun. I'm starting to ease into it. I'm starting to find my place a little bit more, find my voice. And it's all, we have a 3-man booth too, so there's a lot of sharing. I'm not getting the full experience right. You hear that dun, 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 and usually is 80,000 fans roaring in the stadium and painted faces and people, falling all over themselves. Yeah. And so we don't have any of that kind of thing. So it's all been an adjustment. I think it's going well. I think we're getting better every week. And I think we'll be in a good place, really soon. I feel like we're in a good spot now, but I think for me specifically, there's plenty of room to get better.
You're curious, at any time after you got the job, did you talk to Tessitore?
Oh, yeah.
Joe went through a learning curve.
Yeah, I think it's the seat. Like, it's the brightest of lights. And it's football in the States, right? And I'm sure it's like, Saturday and Hockey Night in Canada when you're the sole game out there and you're alone and the whole country is watching, right? And so it's got to be very similar to those people, those great broadcasters who have been in that chair. So, hey, John, I talk to everybody, bud. And if they didn't call me, and a lot of them called me, then I called them. Absolutely. Talked to Mike Tirico a lot, Sean McDonough a lot. Tess was great going through the process. He probably knew in February or March. I'm not sure when it actually came out publicly that he wasn't coming back. But Tess was even great going back to when I got the college football gig 5 years ago. Tess was great with tips. Hey, here's how you want to handle your week. Set up the preparation. So, look, all these guys that have come before me are not just colleagues. They really are friends in the business. I talked to Joe Buck. I call the guys at Fox too, guys at other networks. And there is a fraternity. I think people get it. We all want to be in that top spot. And so those guys have already been there. And anything they could teach me, they were very, it wasn't like, hey, I'm not helping you out, buddy. It was total opposite. What can I do? What do you want to know? And I mean 30, 45 minutes, an hour on the phone, with Tirico. And these are busy guys.
And how do you handle the Twitter sphere is not fair ever, period,
Yeah.
End of discussion. How do you handle it? How do you manage it?
So, and I'm not one of those people who say, hey, I don't look at it. I never read it. That's nonsense. I don't believe anybody who says that. I don't believe athletes and players, when they say it, they don't read it and hear it on talk radio. I think I have a good philosophy. I cancel out everybody who says, hey, Steve, you suck. And hey, Steve, you're great. I immediately eliminate those two voices. And what I find some of it is actually constructive and some of it might be accurate even too. And if I agree with it, then I can fix it. I can correct something really quickly. And so in that regard, I want to know what the audience is thinking. We all want to be liked, or at least, I don't know, I do. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I'd like to be liked. I care about what people think in that regard. And I'm trying to do the best job I can. And so honestly, one or two things I'll get off Twitter after every game. I don't check it during the game. I'm not getting involved in that. But after something, you know what? I can do a better job with that. And I put it into effect immediately the following Monday.
I have no idea how many football games you've called over the course of your career. Do you have any idea? Like broad strokes.
Yeah, I did about maybe 150 college games, college football games. And so now I'm on 11 or 12 NFL games.
So speak to the preparatory process that you go through for Monday Night Football and how that you've discovered that differs, if at all, from what happened with college football.
Well, first of all, and this might surprise people, but pro football I find is much easier to broadcast. Like it's not even close. It's the sheer numbers. First of all, college might have 100 players on each team, right? 100 players on each team. We did Michigan a couple times. They've got 4 guys wearing the uniform number 4. 4 different players wearing the same uniform number. Yeah. What are we doing? So that's a big part of it. The other part is it's so coach driven in college, right? Because the players are constantly changing. And so there's coaches, you get those legendary coaches who have been in a place, it could be 20 years, could be 25 years. And then the pro game is all really about a player. It's a players league, right? It's about the stars in the NFL. And the beauty of that is I don't have to look down on my board, right? I already know these guys. I know who's making the tackles, who's making the sacks, who's running, who's catching. So that's a real advantage. And the other advantage is, quite frankly, what I mentioned before, where I grew up. Like the work for college football was, the reading of the traditions and the rivalries. And look, I read as much as anybody could going into those weeks, but it's not the same as growing up in it. And so I grew up in the NFL and pro football, and so I know all that stuff in advance. I can speak to the history of the game, the players, the traditions. And so I think I'm much better suited for the pro game.
You talked about the 3-man booth. In many ways, that makes your job easier too, because what you really need to do is stop when the guy is tackled, or he scores, or it goes out of bounds.
It's so I would say yes and no. There's definitely a lot less real estate for me, right? And I want to, and in Brian Griese and Louis Riddick, and I mean it, not just because they're next to me, not right now, but on Monday nights. 2 of the most cerebral football minds anywhere in the country. Super high. I mean, they're bright guys anyway, but super high IQ for football. So they have a lot of interesting things to say. And I either want to set that up properly or at least stay out of the way so they have plenty of room. The other part is what we don't want is really wall to wall, whistle to snap, right? You want to have some of the ambiance, some of the sounds. And while there's no crowd in the stadium this year, the upside to that is you are getting more of the acoustics from the field. We're hearing a little more trash talking when your audio cuts out a little bit. That's because somebody said a naughty word. But you're hearing you're hearing a lot more of the sounds from the quarterback, the defensive players, the signals, the timeouts, and the huddle and all that stuff. So that's been the one plus. But we are trying to find a balance. And the truth of it is I do have the easy job there because, John, as you said, the play ends and I stop. And how Griese and Riddick figure out who's going to go next, I don't know, and it's really none of my business, And when the second one is done talking, then I'll pick it up again. But we're finding that right balance. It's really funny in the on cameras. I'll do a little behind the curtain. In the on cameras, a couple of times I don't know who wants to talk about what, right? So I start in, and they don't know who I'm going to. They're standing next to each other, and so sometimes they'll step on each other. And even one of the plays we had was really funny. Coach decided to go 4th and 1. What do you think, fellas? And they both start talking. Then they both stop. And both start again. We kind of laughed about it. So, yeah, we're sort of figuring this out, the 3 of us together for the first time this season.
I find that very interesting. John will attest to this because he and I have worked together for a number of years. I don't even.
Some people say too long, Bob.
Well, I've said that many times.
Yes, thank you. I kind of knew that.
I don't know about other people. And John, I think, will attest to this. When we used to do like you have multi people in studio at the same time. We used to call them round tables. We used to do them every Friday, and we'd have 4 of us around the table. And there are times when everybody's looking for a cue as to when to talk. And then there are other times where everybody wants to talk at once. And I always took the role of kind of pointing at people so that they knew who was going to come next. And so you're not trying to direct really, but it's, in an essence, that's sort of what you're doing. But you're suggesting, Steve, you don't really do that. You kind of let the two guys fight it out for airspace?
I kind of want them to, in essence, because I don't want to be the one to decide who has the better information based on what I ask. Now, I have a sense of who does what. Brian was the offensive player. Lewis was a defensive player.
Yeah,
Lewis
sure.
also was in the front office, so I get a sense there. But again, that's only the on camera. When we're off camera, I think they do hand signals, or they get some direction in the truck. The producer will say, hey, you take this, Brian, or you take this, Lewis. Quite frankly, I'm amazed that we haven't stepped on each other a little more. Greasy and I have the benefit of, we did the 4 years of college together.
Right.
And so Lewis was much more of a studio personality. And so we did a game together last year, 1 or 2, but that, and we didn't, and we didn't have the preseason, which we really could have used. But, I don't want to make excuses. Everybody's dealing with the same kind of thing. And we know we're going to be, judged on what comes through the television speakers.
So how I mean, it's a one night a week show.
Yep.
But how many times a week do you talk to Riddick and Brian? Yeah. And how many conference calls do you go through? And when do you got the Rams and Tampa coming?
Yeah. When
do you go to the site?
All right, so like Bill Belichick, no days off. I mean, I can't believe how quick the week ramps up. We all have our own actual real lives, right, with kids and school and trying to keep things straight in the house and all that. So by the time I get home on Tuesday from, Monday night site, I will have watched the game already, the 3 hours back on tape. And then our first meeting starts on Wednesday. We have a Zoom with just the on-air people and producer director. And we'll go back over what we all watched on the tape of the 3 hours. Few thoughts on the upcoming week. Then on Thursday is the next thing. That's a big one. That's a Zoom with like 50 people. And that's really all just going forward, elements, what are we looking for, and those kinds of things. So normally I travel Friday or Saturday. Used to be we'd be able to travel Friday to go to practice on Saturday. Now we really can't go to practice because of the COVID-19. All of our team meetings are all on Zoom now, head coaches and players. And I'm really afraid that might be the way in the future, even when things get back to normal. It just seems to be easier. I imagine these teams don't want us in their facilities and we don't have to be there. And quite frankly, it cuts down on our commutes, our transportation. We can do it at home, maybe go to site later. So there's a lot of reasons, but I don't think you have the same relationships on Zoom. Some of these coaches and players are very paranoid too. They don't know who's also listening in on the Zoom. So They might be a little hesitant to give you, an interesting fact or, hey, watch out for this trick play. So, but the week never ends. I am constantly reading. And when I'm in the car picking up the kids, I'm listening to NFL radio to try to pick up something else. And it really never ends.
It's interesting with the Zoom thing and being around the two bubbles in Toronto at Edmonton for hockey, Steve. I think the days of walking through the dressing room or the locker room, I think they're done. Yeah. No, even after the pandemic's over, I think that players quite enjoy their privacy. I think coaches like it. And I think we better, in the media, start getting used to using our computers all the time. And John, you're going to use that intimacy. You're going to lose the intimacy.
You're gonna, you know what? You're gonna lose media. You're gonna lose media, right? Because people are not gonna travel to games anymore, then, right?
That's right.
You can do all the access on Zoom. You're not in the locker room. You're not getting these players alone one-on-one. I think that leads to more layoffs in our industry, more wire stories, unfortunately, and that's a dangerous path because I think people lose sight of the job the media does the other way, right? How we promote the sport. The reason that these TV dollars are so high is because of the stories and the interest the media is generating by being around the players and the personalities and the coaches. And so that too could backfire. But this is obviously a really, it's a brutal time in our industry. Me and some of my colleagues, we talk about, we were coming out of college right now, how difficult it would be to break into the spots that we've all enjoyed and been in. And so these are tricky times. So, some of it's been good, but some of it's going to leave a lasting mark in a negative way, I'm afraid.
With Steve Levy of ESPN, the voice of Monday Night Football on that network. You will know, Levy, that Shannon, with his long history as a producer, had a reputation of being a bit of a hard ass. And
no.
Look, it's a reputation. It doesn't. I'm not validating it.
I'm a marshmallow,
mind you, based on
marshmallow.
Yeah, well, yeah. When there's no fire around, you're a marshmallow. The minute there's a fire. So, but here's the point, and you brought this up a couple of minutes ago. This notion of air checks, which essentially you guys go, well, most everybody goes through it. And I know Shannon is probably a big proponent of it. He would love to be able to sit down with whoever the broadcaster was at the game that he produced or directed and just give them shit for whatever he thought they did wrong.
I call it constructive criticism, Bob.
I'm sure they would agree. I'm sure they would use the exact same words. And clearly this is part of the infrastructure of doing what we do. And yet John will tell you, I don't think, John, I can't remember the last time I looked at an air check, looked at a show that we did. Yeah. It is what it is. I think you absorb the mistakes and the things that you did while you're doing them, and you try and make those changes. So I'm just intrigued, really, from both of you. What is the real value of an air check? What is the value of sitting down, in your case, Steve, on Tuesday or Wednesday, and assessing the job you did on Monday night?
Well, first of all, I think it's different depending on what the show is. Like, there are so many people involved in Monday Night Football. There are so many moving parts. I think we travel 100 people, and we used to travel, and we used to travel 200. Right. I think we've cut it in half because of everything going on in the pandemic. So and listen, I've got so many monitors in front of me now, because there's no stage manager. There's no one, helping us out, handing us cards or anything. So that's on a monitor. There's no spotter. He's on a monitor. There's no statistician. I mean, we're all by ourselves in the booth. They don't even let us go to the game together. So we're all separated by 6 feet and so on. So, but because of that, I'm missing things. I'm missing things from the broadcast. I always say I have a lot of voices in my head, but especially on Monday night, I really have 6 or 7 people who can talk to me at any time. And so when that happens, they're cutting out, Brian and Lewis. And so I feel like I'm missing a lot of stuff. I am pleasantly surprised when I watched the air check back on Tuesday. And I'm like, wow, that point was even better on television. I didn't realize they circled that guy before the play ever happened. That statistic comes in at just the right point, that graphic, the way they supported me in this. So, and by the way, mistakes also. I can't believe I screwed that up, that line, or I got that player wrong, and I didn't catch it live, and I would never catch it live. So I catch my own mistakes too, and then I'm trying to be constructive, and we all sort of have an open relationship. We're all honest and try to check the ego at the door and say, hey, Brian, if you say this, then I can do this better. Lewis, if you get to this quicker, we can do this. And the producer and the replays and the angles of those replays. So yeah, I think I can't imagine not watching the game back on.
Do you watch the whole show, Steve?
Whole show and the television copy. I want to see coming in and out of break. Yeah. I'll fast forward through the commercials, but I want to see going to break, coming out of break, and all those kinds of things.
Because I'm a huge advocate of air checks, but I'm also one that says, okay, if we hammer away at a guy for 3 hours, he's going to be depressed for a week. I
think you run the risk, John, of inhibiting his performance.
Right. When I was doing that type of work, what I would say is, okay, we're going to watch a period. We're going to watch 15 minutes. And, within that 15 minutes, you try to pick the best 15 minutes, both to compliment and to criticize.
Hang on, John, you're watching together as a group?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we're not. We're watching it individually. Us 5 are watching the entire game individually. With
So
a legal pad,
like on the plane home or whatever, right?
On the airplane or at home, yeah, and on a legal pad, and we're going line by line. Hey, 17-12 of the first half, whatever it was, and that kind with time cards and everything, yeah. So
I think the other thing you caught me for being able to have 6 or 7 people in your head at the same time, because in the world that I worked in, it was you had the producer. There was always just the producer, and then when I went and worked for NBC, it was the producer in one ear and Dick Ebersol in the other.
Yep.
And Ebersol had override. So so to have that many people talking to you, I don't know how you do it. I mean, that's a really hard thing to do.
And I always say this, when you're sitting at home on the couch and you hear a broadcaster, sportscaster, and he gets the score wrong or the team's name wrong, you're like, how could he possibly make that mistake? Well, quite frankly, that's how you could possibly make that mistake. The average person at home does not realize what's going on. And by the way, nor should they.
Nor should they.
Any excuse. That's not on them. But it is understandable. Even the most basic mistake, even the biggest mistake, how could they flip the teams, the wrong city, the wrong player? That stuff is going to happen. You just try to really minimize it.
Do you feel comfortable, given that this is still a fairly new role for you, that for lack of a better term, talking back to a producer or telling him after a game, hey, shut up a little bit, give me a little space here, you're too much in my ear, blah, 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 whatever it is. You feel comfortable doing that now?
Look, I've been there a long time, even though
I know
the job is new for me. Our producer is in the same spot. Phil Dean is our producer. He is in his first year of Monday Night Football, so we're all in this together. And he's been at the company 30 years. He's done college football, national championships, 25 of those years. So it's funny, the veteran of the 5 of us is our director, Jimmy Platt, and he's on his 2nd season of Monday Night Football.
Wow.
So we're all sort of figuring it out together. I would never say shut up, but I would say, hey, can you give me a second here? And certainly after the fact. And I want that from them too. Hey, Steve, you can't be talking in that spot. Hey, Steve, that's the wrong time to bring up that story or something. I want that. I welcome that. If their heart and mind is in the right place, which is to get us better as a group, I welcome that. Bring it on.
Okay, so never mind this football stuff. The reason you're here is because you love hockey.
Yeah.
That just came as a kid, Ranger fan, the whole thing?
So a weird Ranger fan, because I grew up on Long Island for high school, and my 4 years on Long Island were the 4 years the Islanders won the Stanley Cup. I mean, it was an unbelievable time to be a hockey fan, and of course, I loved their arch rival. I wanted to be the big city kid. I had a Carol Vadnais Rangers jersey in high school. I was the only Ranger jersey in the whole high school. And again, it was the height of the Islanders, right? I mean, and what I loved about that team, and still to this day, I think they were the most well-rounded group in terms of they could brawl with the best of them, out-finesse you, offense, defense, goaltending. The Billy Smith era was just unbelievable. To have a rock like Dennis Potvin on the blue line who could do everything, and they used to just destroy the Rangers in the postseason outside of, maybe 1979.
Hey, hold on. Davidson's on line 3. He said, just a minute, there's 1 year where they didn't beat us.
Yeah, 79, I think, right?
That's right.
And then the Rangers go to Montreal. They won the first game in Montreal. They were up in the second game. And Larry Robinson scored in overtime, and the Rangers didn't win again, something like that.
Yeah. I'm showing my age, but I mean, I did the 4 Islanders series.
Yeah.
But I also did the one the year before.
Yeah.
And that's where I actually met John Davidson for the first time. So it was, and I loved both teams, because I don't think you can get better people in hockey than a guy like JD or Bill Torrey or Al Arbor.
Just the rivalry itself was so good. Obviously the proximity, I don't know if it's 20 miles, which could take you an hour and a half on the Long Island Expressway, from the Coliseum to to the Garden. I never got to Quebec. I would have loved to seen a Montreal-Quebec game. I feel like I missed out on that. Boston-Montreal, I've been a part of that, which was really cool. But that Islander-Ranger rivalry in the heyday was something special.
They were actually, we used to argue whether Islanders, Rangers, or Flames, Oilers was a better hated rivalry. And both were pretty darn good.
Good stuff.
Well, and down the road are the Devils, and I know that they are the add-on, I suppose. Tell us about, are the Devils even a factor in Manhattan or on Long Island, or are they just another team that happens to be fairly geographically close?
Yeah, it was odd. They really were like a distant cousin. And for a long time, they were the best of the bunch, right? They were so good.
Yeah, they were.
They just, some of it was their style, the way they played the game. Some of it was, they're in New Jersey. It's not New York. It's not Manhattan. It's amazing through that little Lincoln Tunnel how different the other side can be. And they probably never got their just due and respect for how good, how excellent they were at playing the game. But yeah, they've never factored in, I don't think, to the Manhattan mindset, and certainly not during the Ranger Islander glory days. No.
And yet here we are. The Islanders are kind of back.
Yeah.
And who's running them? But our old pal Lou Lamoriello, the old Devils guy, and you're going, oh, this is classic New York. Going. That's like going Mets to Yankees.
Right. It's to me, and this is really weird. It's kind of about the building. Like the Devils could be great, and the Islanders could be great, and the Rangers are still New York's team. They play in Madison Square Garden. It's the ceiling inside the building, the buzz, even when they're bad. It's just weird. I can't explain it. I don't know if that's the factor, but being in New York City and playing at the Garden sort of has always separated them. Plus the payroll, they have a little extra cash than the other.
There's nothing like the Garden. There's nothing like the Garden. I mean, I'm a Canadian. But boy, there's nothing like Madison Square Garden. And I don't want to get you in trouble with Jimmy Pitaro or anybody.
Yeah.
But you're going to be doing play-by-play for the NHL on ESPN too?
Listen, I'm not going to lie. Boy won't lie to you here. I have absolutely heard those rumors, not about me doing it, but that the NHL or a piece of the NHL coming back to ESPN. But quite frankly, we've heard it for 10 years now. So the whispers are a little louder now. I know the deal is coming up. These are tough times out there. But it's my understanding from presidents past and current at ESPN, we have been in the mix every year. And NBC's always had the right of last refusal. And so, we go up and they go a bit higher, and the NHL takes the dollar. So I understand that. I'm hoping there's a piece of the NHL for ESPN. How big a piece, I don't know, but it's worked in the NBA. It's worked out just great. Everybody's happy with that partnership. The NFL, everybody's very happy with that partnership. To a lesser extent, Major League Baseball, I think, too. But why shouldn't the NHL be seen on multiple platforms in the U.S.?
It's all those Whaler fans. It's all those Whaler fans. Bristol's not far from Hartford. All those years we used to go, and every time we met with the ESPN brass, they'd talk about the Whalers. And you're going, the Whalers' legacy is what's keeping ESPN involved in the game of hockey. It's unbelievable.
You see those Hurricanes throwbacks, huh?
Yes, I did.
Pretty sweet.
I did.
Yeah, we did.
Sweet. Yeah.
Well, time is our enemy here. We want to let you go. We promised we wouldn't go much longer than this. But I got to ask you this. I mean, given your emotional attachment to the game of hockey, that obviously dates back a long time, you are now doing one of the most high-profile sporting events on television.
Don't get him in trouble, Bob. Don't get him in trouble.
Well, so the phone rings and it's some high-level suit from somewhere who says, Levy, you got a choice. You can do NHL games, or you can do Monday Night Football, but you can't do both. Huh? Well, where are you going?
I would say, why can't I do both?
I know, but you can't say that.
And the football season's in the winter.
Typical announcer.
Nice try.
Listen.
What's the dream? Are you living it now?
Honestly, the dream sets up really nicely if I can keep the Monday Night Football gig and coast into the NHL in February.
Good answer.
It's the Stanley Cup final. That is the all-time dream. Summer's off. We all go to the cottage. I'm kidding. That's for you guys. We don't have cottages down here. Everybody up there has a cottage, I know. And that would be the ultimate. And we'll see if we have a shot at that. So.
Well, not the answer I was looking for, but the answer I kind of expected. Steve, great to meet you. We had not chatted before today, and I know you and John have been friends for some period of time, or acquaintances at the very least. And we congratulate you on your success, and we wish you continued success. And hopefully we'll have a chance to chat down the road again. Thanks a lot for today.
Thank you so much, guys. Bob, John, I really, really enjoyed it. And Bob, while we haven't spoken before, I absolutely knew who you were, a big fan of the show over the years. And John, I still have the Hockey Night in Canada hat you gave me 25 years ago. I still have it. I asked you for it, and nobody ever delivers, right? Everybody, hey, I'll get you a hat, I'll get you a hat. And you had it the next day for me.
Actually, there's two guys that asked for the hat on the same day. You and Eric Lindros. Because Eric Lindros needed a hat to wear at his press conference. He was so mad at the Flyers.
Yeah.
He walked in wearing a Hockey Night in Canada hat, and everybody said, "How did you do that?" I said, "That's called branding, baby. That's called branding." By the way, Tampa Bay and the Rams on Monday night for Steve, Bob.
Yep.
There you go.
Okay.
Chance to see that number 12 quarterback again. Can't remember his name, but he's pretty good. We got to get out of here. Thank you again, Steve. Thank you, John. And we'll see you Friday on the roundtable.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.